Welcome back to the Triathlon Training Explained show, powered by TrainingPeaks. Do you ever wish that you had more time? Well, of course you do. We'd all love to train for longer and more often, but maybe we're missing a point here. Well, I'm going to be tackling that tricky balancing act and working out how to optimise that time that we do have. And with the help of specialist in this area, Coach Matt Dixon, I'm going to be bringing you strategies to help you optimise your training. This video isn't about how to break down your training. Instead, we're going to be focusing on those areas that are so often overlooked. Now, it's a general sweeping statement, but triathletes tend to be highly driven both in training and in work, which can be a dangerous mix and something often has to give. Well, Matt Dixon, founder of Purple Patch Coaching, knows this all too well as he coaches some high-flying business men and women to top results, including overall Ironman wins at age group events. Matt is really passionate about quality over quantity and wants to reiterate the fact that the goal of training isn't hard work, the goal is actually to improve your performance. So with this in mind, you need to be patient and plan wisely. It's methodology and mindset, according to Matt. Well, we caught up with him over at Oceanside to find out a little bit more about this theory.
Well, I think it starts with two things, a methodology and a mindset, but the word I would say first is integration. And so what I see out there is so many really aspiring, motivated athletes, and they go to a coach or they create their own program and they take their training program and it's just dumped on top of life. And ultimately you can't be successful if you just isolate what you're thinking about, all of the stresses in life, and then just simply without actually considering those stresses of life when you go about training. And so many people just chase X number of hours. Their barometer of success is something that is absolutely madness. How many hours did I do this week? And when you try and mesh that into a time-starved life, it's absolutely impossible. So the first thing that we do is we talk about that word integration and we start from the other end of the equation. Let's look at the real landscape of someone's life. And let's look at when they truly have time available without compromising things like post-workout fueling, sleep, some social time and time to be with their family so they can be a wholesome person. And what we have left over is a realistic block of time that we get to work with. Then what we have is an optimization challenge. How do we now maximize that time to give us the biggest yield within context of your life? So that's the first component. The second component that I think is really important as well is not just, particularly for a time-starved individual, not looking at training as just swim, bike and run, and instead actually committing to really basic habits that are going to support the stresses that they're under, including their training, but also other things with life. So we have on an equal playing field strength and conditioning, recovery, which is the magic word that I'm obviously known for, and all of the habits that would sit under for me nutrition, hydration, fueling, and components like that.
It can be daunting to think of triathlon as more than swimming, cycling and running, but Matt makes a very valid point there. It is a balancing act and one that we have to work out for ourselves. A coach can only guide us so far, and then we have to actually take that responsibility to think about the bigger picture and weigh up how it all fits into our overall lives and our training. All of that said, sometimes something has to give and choosing what to drop can be tough. I know personally that I'm guilty of keeping the sessions I enjoy, but dropping the dreaded ones or putting them to the bottom of the pile. And usually the dreaded sessions are the hard ones and they're the ones that are going to make a difference, whereas that long, steady bike ride I've got planned with my friends isn't going to make me faster on race day. So I decided to put Matt on the spot and ask him how we should prioritise.
Finding consistency would be the first thing, and I know that sounds really general, but finding consistency is the magic word. But the best advice I think I can give around that is to not look at your training program as just an accumulation of work. So in any given week, we have every one of our athletes take a step back. We actually call it the Sunday special. Before the week starts, let's look at the landscape of your week and let's see how busy you are. And then let's look at your training. And rather than just thinking Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, what are the 2 days likely? What are the key sessions in any given week that are really going to move the performance needle? And so we actually have a hierarchy of training. Those are the ones that we build the week around. And if you're time starved, those are the ones that you should move around in the week to make them unmissable, because they're the key components. And then you have a hierarchy of decision making, because in support of them, we have workouts that we, in a revolutionary way, called supporting. And the design of those sessions is to either facilitate recovery, to have a general endurance or technical component, or prepare for one of those key sessions. And of course, those are the sessions that if you can do them all, great. It's wonderful. Life ebbs a little bit and you can get them all in. But if life is flowing and you have to make a decision, they're the ones that you either scale or reduce some of the workload or ultimately eliminate. And then you still have the specificity that you can do to create the magic of consistency. And so that's really the thing, is get out of the weeds, get perspective, and make it sure you've got a recipe that can hit consistency.
In a sense, acceptance of the time we do have is vital. Once we're honest with ourselves and realistic with the amount of time we do have to set aside for triathlon, then we can focus on consistency. And you need to remember that we do triathlon for fun, in theory. And I know it's easy for me to sit here and make it sound so simple, but it's easy to forget sometimes that we're not actually pros, and triathlon is a hobby. But if you're not careful, mistakes can slip in.
So the biggest mistakes that we tend to see with all athletes, but particularly time-starved athletes, I think there are two major mistakes. The first is going too hard in the easy days. And so bringing the bottom up, because they're time-starved with the pursuit of making every workout count, they end up making the easy run a little bit harder than it should. They end up chasing because they're just worried that they're not getting enough hours in. And of course, what that does is dilute the quality of those key sessions that we talk about, but ultimately it's going to give them risk of fatigue accumulation. And then the second component, and it becomes particularly prevalent when you have a lot going on in your life, you don't have time to breathe, is post-workout fueling. There's a whole component of that. It's not just about restocking the energy in the muscles or the stores in the muscles and component like that. It's actually about energy management in the day and making sure that you're doing the high quality training that you're doing, but then refueling following to set the tone for the rest of the day so that you can stabilize the stress and have good energy management. So those would be the two key things. The third thing, the final little extra, is looking over the fence. Having the stressor of, my friend John is doing 20 hours and I only have 12, and thinking that that dilutes the ability to actually be successful. And ultimately the truth is we have a lot of amateur athletes that have done very, very well all the way up to winning world championships that are training for Ironman at 10 to 12 hours a week.
Be aware of any potential pitfalls and have a realistic strategy in place that will help you have the best opportunity of reaching those targets. And I know we're not going to have as many hours to train as a pro, but it doesn't mean we can't train as smart as them, if not smarter. If you're anything like me, you're going to want to have more time in the day, not just for triathlon training, but for everything. Although I must admit, I'm very reassured by the fact that you can become a top age group athlete in Ironman with just 10 to 12 training hours a week. But that does involve being brave and trusting in quality over quantity. Now, I'd love to know how many hours a week you actually train and how that breaks down. So let me know in the comments section below. If you've enjoyed it, hit the thumb up button and hit the globe to subscribe to make sure you get all of our videos. And whilst we're talking about training with little time, if you want to get faster running without training anymore, we've got a video on that just down here. And if you want to catch up with our other Triathlon Training Explained videos, we've got the playlist just down here.